everybody, and welcome to another episode of Meditating with Michelle. So, Michelle, I think this episode is a natural progression of discussing what we kind of touched base on last time, and that's the stigma of what of what you are concerned about with these growth kind of spurts that you're having. Can you share with the audience the concerns with the stigma that you feel like you're going to have?
Absolutely. So, since this Kundalini rising or spiritual awakening, however you want to call it, I had never been exposed to it myself. So I feel that, I don't know if I would say embarrassed. I feel uncertain on who you can trust with this kind of thing, because I think a lot of people would think I was going crazy, or they would think that something was wrong, or that I was some kind of possessed. Because in the beginning I thought that I was possessed because I knew that I wasn't moving my body, and I had never been exposed to this happening to anybody before. I had to look into it. When I figured it out, then I realized, yes, this does happen to some people, but most of the people that I know from church and in my life, this isn't something that I feel comfortable discussing with them.
I think for a lack of a better way to describe kind of uncovering what is occurring is, I think, let's just call it a diagnosis, right? For a lack of a better way to describe it. In a way, we're kind of self-diagnosing this Kundalini Awakening. When you started describing this to me, I almost could envision if there was either a medical practitioner or a religious person, whether they are qualified or not to diagnose it, they may diagnose it as seizures. They may right, if you have a fanatical religious person, they may diagnose it as like needing an exorcism. I can't imagine what people who are unfamiliar with this, how they would misdiagnose it. And you and I know some of the same people. I think both religiously and I think medically, I can't imagine people, if they are misdiagnosed, and if they were not a strong enough person like you to say, hey, I'm going to explore this in an additional way. If they didn't, and they just said, and somebody misdiagnosed it and said they had to go on some medicine, if they were not a strong, confident person, they may do it. They may get drugged because of this awakening.
Absolutely. There's a fear for the person that's going through it, and for the people that are treating it, because they're treating it as an illness. I'm not treating it as an illness. I'm treating it as a spiritual experience. And there's so much that I've learned since this happened. But like you said, for people that have never experienced this, or for people that are watching this video, well, if you're watching this video, you might have already had an experience because you searched for it. And that's how I figured out what was happening to me, because I think I Googled spontaneous movements in meditation or something, and then it took me down a rabbit hole, and I understood what was happening. But medically, yes, there's periods where I was telling you about how sometimes it's almost like this intense shaking in my head, but if I look in the mirror, it doesn't look like anything's happening, but inside is so if taking that symptom to a doctor may they may put you on some kind of seizure medication, or give you an MRI, or look into what's happening, but they're not going to find anything, because what's happening is spiritual. And I was afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid of dying anymore. I know that there's more to this world than what we see here in the physical. So I've grown a lot. This has only been since Labor Day, no, Memorial Day weekend, the end of May. So now I'm a few months in. So I have engrossed myself in learning about it because you can't help but stay focused on it because it's happening to you. You just want to know what's happening. Are other people experiencing the same thing? What other symptoms are people having? So you're just diving into as much as you can, and it kind of, your whole life is on standby while you're waiting for that.
Now, I think a lot of this is you almost have to trust what you're feeling. The reason I'm almost qualifying it is, who knows, there might be somebody watching this that had a seizure and maybe they're afraid of going to the doctor and they're trying to tie it in with a Kundalini experience, but in fact they may be having a seizure. I would say people generally are going to have to trust their gut, right?
Exactly. And when I started this, and I was meditating, so it wasn't like this just came out of nowhere, because I was meditating, and it started as little tingling up my legs, and I believe I told you there's something happening. I think I'm hitting something, and next thing you know, here I was with this scary. I was scared to death. I had no idea what was going on, and I felt, it's a weird feeling when you don't have control over what's going on with your body, because we're human beings. We if I want to raise my arm, I'm going to raise my arm. If I want to jump up and down, I'm going to jump up and down. But when your body's doing these things and you mentally are not doing them, and it's doing it by itself, it's alarming in the beginning. Now I see it as this blissful feeling, because when it's happening, it's almost like this relaxation of, I don't know how to explain it. It's a blissful feeling, like you just feel so at peace and relaxed while your body's doing all these weird things. And it's definitely an experience.
So I remember the words you used when you first discussed this with me, and this was actually before you had that initial breakthrough. Your words was, "I'm coming close to a breakthrough."
Yeah.
Right. You knew something. So I would say to the audience to be aware. Michelle felt a slow change. She felt she was close to a breakthrough. It wasn't just an epileptic seizure, so to speak. So
right.
Again, we're not doctors, and nor are we trying to diagnose it, but Michelle felt she was coming close to a breakthrough, and in fact, she really was.
I was. And some of that might have been like, and I know it sounds really weird, but lots of synchronicities, a lot of numbers. Like I was never a numbers person. Like I would see 222 and 333 and 666 and 777, and just multiple numbers like that. And it was, it was like, okay, I hear you. So I would look it up. I'd look stuff up on Google. What does this mean? Why do I keep seeing these numbers? And it was, I saw that some people would say that they were angel numbers, and so it wasn't like everything happened all at once. It was kind of like this slow process of that happened gradually, I guess, so that I wasn't totally shocked when it did happen. And I think that the spirit within us knows emotionally what we can handle and what we can't. People that go through this instant may go into psychosis because they don't know what's happening, and it happened out of nowhere. They weren't meditating. They weren't in a place where I was at. I've been asking for healing from grief for years. So that's kind of what started. I just wanted to feel better. I just wanted to live and, enjoy my life instead of being in grief. So that's how it started.
So I want to ask one other question about this because we discussed this. I'm not sure if this was on the prior video, but I like the idea of knowing that in each of us we have a higher self.
Absolutely.
Can you describe in your words what you feel your higher self is?
My higher self is much wiser than I. um, and sometimes I'll ask my higher self, and I've gotten messages from my higher self that I wrote down. Automatic writing. I was doing automatic writing a little bit. I kind of stopped, but I'm going to do it again because I was getting all these messages, and I would think, that was not from me. I would know I'm smart and I can write. I did well in English and things, but this sounded like that wasn't from me. It was almost like a message from a higher realm. But I don't know who I am. I just know that I feel this deep love and acceptance of who I am, both human and the higher self. We're all one. We're conjoined, but I haven't reached a point where I am intertwined fully with my higher self.
So really, in a way, I almost, for a lack of a better way to describe it, it's like we have our conscious, we have our subconscious, and maybe that's our superconscious. Maybe that's just
Yes.
a part of us that it's a part of us, but it's so much more aware, and most of us as just standard human beings are not ready to be in communication with our superconscious.
We're not open. We're so programmed, and that's what I'm learning too. That I've had a lot of programming. You'll never make money. You're not this. You're not that. All these different things that we're taught in school. This is how it's done. Work, go to work, bring home some money, but you're never going to have enough. You're never going to have abundance. It's always going to be a struggle, paycheck to paycheck. And all these different things that we're taught growing up, either from our families or from school or from our friends or relationships, all of those things are not true. They're programs. The more you hear them, the more they get programmed into you and they become a part of you. So when all this started happening, it starts clearing some of these different things out, like names that I was called growing up and things. As I was doing these meditations and clearing myself, I felt like I was being cleared. All of this stuff has to come to the surface in order to release it. But I understand now that they're programs, and they're deep rooted in there. So in my meditations, I've released a lot of things. In the beginning, it was all in my lower three chakras. It's still in my third, but I had so much baggage and programming and things that were in my body. And those things, people calling you names, they leave marks, they leave scars. People say that names, with the sticks and stones can break your bones, but names can never hurt you. No, they can't hurt you physically, but emotionally they leave scars. When people are constantly beating you down emotionally and telling you that you're not good enough and you're not going to be anything, and those things get in you, and you have to release them. So they have to come to the surface to be released. So when that happens, during this Kundalini awakening, it brings all of that to the forefront of your mind, and you have to relive it and release it. And once you release it, you start to feel that love that you really are, because we don't know who we are. And that was a message that I kept getting. I don't know if I've talked to you about that, but when all this started, I kept hearing, "Remember who you are. Remember who you are." And I still don't know exactly who I am, but I do know that I'm loved, I am valued, I'm treasured, and I'm perfect just the way I am. I don't have to try to please anybody else to feel accepted. I'm already accepted just as I am.
That is, I think, if anything, that's one of the reasons people should keep on watching your progression, because they're really going through this journey with you, and we're not really sure ultimately where this is going to end, but you're a much more confident person. You're certainly more confident with this experience that it's not like you have control over it yet, but you're so accepting of it, and because of that, I think ultimately you've become a happier person.
I think so.
And this is the craziest question, but I think the people are going to relate to this, and this could just be a yes or no, but with the stigma that we're talking about, why don't you share with the audience? Have you let your husband know about this yet?
My husband does not know.
So I think that's going to be such a poignant point to the people watching, because they're probably not sure who they should share it with, if they're sharing it with their kids, if they're sharing it with their spouses. They probably don't know, and quite frankly, you don't know yet, right? You're not sure who and who you should share and
right.
who would accept it. So everybody, I would say, please continue to watch and subscribe to Michelle's channel, and ask questions or make comments. And this is a journey you're clearly catching on the fly during the experience. And by the way, by the time we're actually recording this, Michelle has not posted any of the videos yet, so Michelle is still trying to figure out if she's comfortable even posting these. Right now, this is for her personal records, but if and when she ever does share this publicly on YouTube, then you truly are experiencing this with her for the first time. So
absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.